this should naturally lead you, and the common thread has been communication all the way through. This should lead you to goal setting. Now, in just a moment, we're going to use the breakout facility for you to have conversations with a couple of groups, put you into a couple of 2 or 3 groups. I'll leave that to Darren to do in just a moment. But if we can go to the next slide, Darren.
2 seconds.
There we go. So we're going to ask you to just discuss around goal setting protocols for short, medium and long term. And Darren used an example earlier. You might have your own examples, but just have a chat around goal setting protocols, short, medium, long term. And what if you've got someone who's currently running 23.5 minutes of 5K at a local park run? Of course, they're going to be opened up, we've been told. And they want to run sub 20. How are you going to work that out then? Where's that goal setting protocol?
So for those that are still sat here, we'll kind of have a quick conversation whilst we wait for people to come back in, if we give them a couple more minutes. So when we're talking about the goals, again, as we say, we think about, I kind of go reverse way around. So I say, okay, what's my long-term goal? Where do I want to be? So if we are, say, using this break in 20 minutes park run, for example, I say, okay, so I need to be able to break 20 minutes for the park run. So I need to be able to successfully run just under 4 minutes per K for a park run. So obviously my training needs to reflect that. And I might be in a situation now where I'm currently maybe only able to run 4:45 for argument's sake. So the short-term goal will be to try to get me up a little bit higher in that, and then the medium-term higher again, sort of building that. There's no point in me sort of saying, right, okay, I'm going to make all of my reps now, my 1K reps at 350 right now, because I probably wouldn't really be able to get much out of that. I'd struggle with that kind of intensity. It'd be better to sort of take it as more of a longer term approach to say, okay, initially that's just get used to running that pace, get comfortable at that pace at 4:45, and then start bringing those reps down bit by bit and playing with the number of reps, the volumes, the recovery, and then finally the speed. So maybe bring a little bit more volume of those reps. So if initially I was doing, say, 440 1K reps with maybe 2 minutes full rest recovery, I might say, okay, that's maybe bringing an extra rep. If I can cope with that, I might reduce recovery a little bit. If I can cope with that, I'll then start bringing the pace back in up another notch again, and kind of rinse and repeat that until I get to where I'm quite capable to have the sufficient volume and intensity to give me that sort of 355, 358 per K that I would need to hit my goal. That's how I would kind of do it. So again, across the whole sort of remit, I'd be looking for that golden thread of every single part of the plan that I do has to work towards that overall objective goal of the 20-minute 5K, if that kind of makes sense.
You've managed to discuss some goal setting, and here is a slide that some people might be they might understand, might use, might not use, but basically the SMARTER goal system is a standard system to use. The thing about it is that it's a two-way conversation. One of the athletes, coaches in the room I've had said he's got an athlete who wants to break 2 minutes. And he was indicating that basically that it might be a bit of a steep target. So being realistic under the R, time managed and exciting and recorded, is all part of the ongoing process. If you've seen, I've done this with little arrows going through the slides that say short term, medium term, long term. If the long term goal is to break 2 minutes or to break 20 minutes for the 5K park run, whatever it is, your short term and medium term goals will aid you getting there. Please remember those goals should be in pencil. Something might happen. You might achieve the goal early. You might get injured. You might change. You might suddenly think, actually, this isn't working. We've got to change this again. So there is something that you might want to do, and always review and revise. I do it all the time. I know Darren does. Have conversations with your athletes.
I would expect this to be a living document in terms of what does that really mean to me? A living document is basically, if I was to write it on a piece of paper and I go back to review it in 12 months' time, I'm going to have lots of crosses in it, lots of crossing out, things rewritten, redone, reprogrammed based upon what the athlete is in front of me. So again, when we're talking about these micro, meso and macro cycles, the long term typically is, for most people, is actually going to be longer than 12 months. If you're talking about the elite level, for argument's sake, which we are talking about performance goals here, they're going to have various sort of national and international championships they maybe want to be working towards. So these could be 2 and 4 year cycles you're talking about with the athletes. It's not just 12 months ahead. So you've got to think about that as well. So you might have somebody who is talented and says, and has maybe done at the local BMC and thinks, actually, I think I could go on to be a national champion, and I've got my eye on the worlds in the future. Okay, so half one of these come round. That start putting together that plan to get you fit for those championships in 2 years or 4 years time, where you'll hopefully be at your peak and really ready to perform. And of course, you'll have peaks during that time. We're not saying you only get one peak every 4 years. Of course, your whole year is going to be full of peaks and troughs. But it's about putting that long-term goal and thinking actually where they want to go. That, and if we are talking about exciting, particularly when you're talking with the performance athletes, the talented ones, they typically are going to be working towards some very exciting goals at sort of national and international level. So that would hopefully be exciting for them.
Also, on the next slide, Darren, I put in some goals for our young and older people here. Now, these you could now maybe relate to your own athletes and how we've done this, but our school young lady, area schools, 1,500 metres in 12 months' time. And we now know, because we've been specific here, that she's going to have to run around about 4:39 to get there. So there is an awful lot of planning to do there, coach. Our 24-year-old teacher, he wants to go to a BMC Grand Prix within 2 years and go sub 150 again. So again, he's set his targets high, but he's given you time to help him get there. I haven't put it in here, but the 31-year-old with a couple of children who's returning, certainly in half marathon terms in 18 months, she wants to be able to run 85 or under. And she's also whispered in your ear that she wants to run another sub 3 marathon off the back of that. Our 42-year-old, who I'm beginning to love to bits because this is going to be a really interesting journey, wants to get the club ticket for the London Marathon in 18 months' time and go sub 3. And there'll be a lot of those out there. But that could be quite a challenge, but what a reward if you get it for the pair of you. And don't forget yourself. What will your goals be as a coach over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years? What will you need to do to help your athletes achieve their goals? And what will you need to do to help you achieve your goals? It's important. It really is. This is not a one-way street. Yeah?
I definitely. I think that last point there actually is one that's often overlooked, that coaches spend a lot of time developing the people they're working with because they want to help them become the best that they can be and help them reach their goals, whatever those goals may be. However, we'll often spend less time working on our own sort of self-development intentionally, with intent. So it may happen by accident, that we start to read a few more documents and we start to pick up a bit more knowledge because of that. But we seldom actually, as coaches, I think, do this with intent for ourselves. So we'll do a lot of intent for the athletes. When it comes to our own personal development, we think, okay, well, I'm not going to invest any real time in me because I don't have that time. But it's worthwhile if you can, take some time to do that, because what we're really hoping for from an England athletics perspective is what we would like to see happen is your athletes achieve their lofty goals, but you as a coach also improve it and take your knowledge to the next level so you can be that coach that sat there alongside the athletes at that international event, providing them the support that they need all through that journey as well. So that's something to bear in mind.
And this is where we are concluding today's webinar, in as much as this is where we're going to go next month. Now, just think of the journey we've taken so far. We're now going to, I think you could bracket this or headline this as screening. So the knowledge you've got, what do you see? what interventions are you going to make when you start to screen your talented athletes? And I'll give you a little bit of foresight into the next one, and the webinar that follows that is we will talk about screening both static and mobile screens for endurance, and what possible interventions you should make. And with a bit of technology and the gods of IT playing ball with us, in the one that follows that, we will actually watch some athletes going through this screening process and evaluate it as we go. Jenny thinks that's a good idea. Please.